Alright guys, I'm the Kodiak, and today I'm going to be talking about the news that just surfaced this morning where the Jaguars have waived Leonard Fournette. This is unsurprising, but also surprising at the same time. I mean, Jacksonville has invested heavily into Fournette throughout his career. I believe they took him with the 4th overall pick in 2017, which that is pretty brutal considering who went 4th overall the year before, Ezekiel Elliott. Not only that, but throughout Fournette's time in Jacksonville, they've tried to upgrade the O-line, they've tried to get a better quarterback. I think they've drafted some receivers as well, and the only one who's really good right now is Chark. So, I don't know, it just wasn't happening. Last year, the stats on the surface do not look bad for Fournette. 265 carries, 1,152 rushing yards, 4.3 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns, which I guess he was pretty unlucky when it comes to that. 76 receptions, 522 yards, and 1 fumble lost. Last year, Fournette got insane volume. I mean, I took him in the 3rd round in my fantasy league last year, and I was just floored at how many times Jacksonville just kept giving him the ball and giving him the ball and giving him the ball. And he just really didn't seem to do a whole lot. And please understand this, Jacksonville giving Fournette the ball over and over and over again does not make Fournette good. It makes Jacksonville a bad football team. I feel like this sums up Fournette's year better than anything else. Last year, Week 3, Thursday Night Football against the Titans, Leonard Fournette had a 69-yard carry, and he finished the game with 15 carries and 66 rushing yards. And also, going back to the 3 touchdowns, you could say, oh yeah, Fournette was unlucky in that department. Maybe, but he got the 4th most red zone touches in the whole league. Jacksonville as a team last year was not good in the red zone, but Fournette especially was bad in the red zone. I know I talk about fantasy quite a bit on this channel, so let's dive into the fantasy stuff. And I do not want to hear anything about how Fournette was the RB7 or RB8 in fantasy football, depending on which format you play. He had the 3rd most touches in the whole league. If you give anyone, depending on who was the RB6, RB8, RB9, that kind of workload, I can almost guarantee you that they would be the RB3 or better. Fournette's efficiency, according to Player Profiler, was terrible. True yards per carry, so like everything he did without the assist of his O-line, 3.9. Yards per touch, which is how many yards he got every time he touched the ball, 4.9. Big runs, 11, which ranked 8th. Big run rate, 4.2, which ranked 23rd. Evaded tackles, 57, which ranks 19th. Yards created per touch, 1.4, which is 29th in the league. Catch rate, 76%, which is 22nd best in the league. So the efficiency is mediocre at best, and you have to remember that this is a guy who got the 3rd most touches in the league. And I'm going to be completely honest, I would have told you that even before this video, Leonard Fournette should not have been a draft target of yours in a fantasy draft. If you did draft him, I'm sorry, you kind of got unlucky. But I have no idea why people were drafting him in the 3rd round and basically expecting something similar or maybe even just a little worse than last year. Jay Gruden, who's the new offensive coordinator in Jacksonville, brought in Chris Thompson, and what does Chris Thompson do best? He is a pass-catching running back only. We basically already knew that Fournette's receiving workload was going to go down because coaches adapt to inefficiency. They're not just going to keep feeding him and feeding him and feeding him and feeding him like last year. If Fournette was good in the receiving game at all last year, they would not have brought in Chris Thompson. And also, I think we're forgetting that around draft season, the Jaguars were trying to trade Fournette for basically anything. Teams would not give up their 7th round pick for Leonard Fournette. I know people are going to be excited about Raekwon Armstead in fantasy. That is just not the case. Even though I think Fournette is absolutely terrible, to say you shouldn't have drafted him in your fantasy league, hindsight's 2020. For me, he was like a if he falls far enough candidate, but in every draft I've been in, he's gone in the late 2nd, early 3rd, and I was not even considering him there. Let's talk about Jacksonville as a whole. Where are they now, the 2017 Jaguars? Leonard Fournette, cut. Blake Bortles signed with the Rams. Allen Robinson signed with the Bears. Malik Jackson signed with the Eagles. Calais Campbell signed with the Ravens. Yannick Ngakoue traded to the Vikings. Jalen Ramsey traded to the Rams. A.J. Boye traded to the Broncos. The funny thing about this is that most of these guys didn't want to play for him anyway, and I believe that the only transaction that they've won basically is trading Jalen Ramsey to the Rams. Ngakoue to Minnesota though. That's going to make the Vikings D-line pretty scary. So, Vegas odds as to which team Leonard Fournette will play for next. In this order, Washington, New England, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Miami, Tampa Bay. If Fournette goes to Chicago, David Montgomery is easily the worst fantasy asset you could own. I should have said that differently. Like, I'm talking opportunity cost, of course. The worst fantasy asset you could have right now is like Johnny Manziel. Another stat from PFF: Leonard Fournette has 97 broken tackles in total throughout his career. Josh Jacobs, his rookie year alone, broke 69. And this is not a time to argue that the Jaguars should have taken Mahomes or Watson. That is completely hindsight, and that is a garbage take. I will fight anyone about that on a video at a later date. But the running backs that did go behind Leonard Fournette were Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, James Conner, Tariq Cohen, Marlon Mack, Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, Austin Eckler. I'm surprised they didn't release him after he missed like team picture day again or whatever. So back to the landing spots we just talked about. I don't see him going to Washington. Shout out to Terry in the back. They have about like 10 running backs on their roster, none of which have proven like to be amazing. Tampa Bay, I know they already have a crowded running back room, but if they feel like star hunting, or no, not even star hunting, just big name hunting, then I could see them picking up Fournette, but also, I don't know. He could go to Miami, which makes the Fournette, Howard, Breida backfield just completely messy. I cannot understand why anyone thought that Miami would be a good landing spot for a young running back around draft time. And I know the Chargers just paid Eckler, but I feel like that could low-key be a decent move if they plan on being a run-heavy offense this year. Now, the one team I think personally is the most likely to pick him up is the Philadelphia Eagles. I know that Doug Peterson wants Miles Sanders to be the guy. Guess what? Miles Sanders and Boston Scott are the 1 and 2 on their depth chart, and they've both been dealing with injuries this training camp. Now, for fantasy, I hope this does not happen. By no means do I think Fournette's a good running back. I just think if he were to sign with someone, the Eagles would make the most sense. They could just drive Fournette into the ground and let Sanders and Boston Scott do what they do best, which is just being lethal in the passing game. Doug Peterson has come out and said nothing but he wants to feed Miles Sanders this year. And the Eagles have a recent track record of rotating running backs. I know they haven't had a running back as talented as Sanders on their roster, but still. Even last year, Miles Sanders was not the starter until Jordan Howard went down. Miles Sanders was not that good before Jordan Howard went down. But guess what? As soon as he got the keys to his backfield, it was his backfield, and he was kicking ass and taking names. For fantasy, and I'm saying this as someone who owns absolutely 0 shares of Miles Sanders, I do not want Leonard Fournette to go to the Eagles. I want Miles Sanders to eat. And if your league hasn't drafted yet, which you shouldn't, because you should always wait until the latest possible moment to draft. Hell, for a season-long league, if I had the choice, I would draft like the day of kickoff. Yeah, if you're drafting in season-long leagues, if they do bring in Fournette, which I know there were a few pieces of news that actually linked Fournette to the Eagles sometime this offseason, you cannot spend a late first-round pick on Miles Sanders. If it's just a 1-year deal and you're drafting in Dynasty, changes nothing. Yeah, Miles Sanders, hype train all aboard. But for this year alone, and to be honest, it's like the same thing with Chubb and Hunt. Chubb is amazing, but you cannot rely on him to be the guy this year. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. When Leonard Fournette does sign with someone, I probably will end up making a video about it. So subscribe if you're new. Follow me on Twitter. Link is right there or in the description below. Anyways, guys, have a good day, and peace out.
I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right.